Hello, 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 everyone. Mike Arnold's here, co-founder, Pat Trading Partners, along with Bob Iacchino, who's not here on a Sunday. By the way, if you're new here, please do consider subscribing, ringing that bell, and hitting that like button. Longer-term viewers, please like the videos and leave some comments. How is everyone doing? Good afternoon, Mike. Daily overbought, that's the pullback for the ES. We will take a look at that. You'll get my thoughts. By the way, do you want me to call you Tesla Force or Davey? Let me know. Dan Jed, hey, good afternoon, Amit. Hope you are well. Thank you for wishing everybody is well. Also, hey, Ted. Oh, you are very welcome. I'll start doing more of them again. I'm so pressed for time right now. And I think these live streams are helpful to keep them going every day, multiple times, especially with these market conditions. We want to try to help as many people as possible. It's not just straight up. Well, now it's sort of straight up markets, so we shall see. We shall see. By the way, I just recorded and posted the sector overview, so please go check that out when you have a chance later today or tomorrow, maybe pre-market. Do not ignore that. Now we've had this massive run up in the S&P. Did a lot of analysis. I've been working all weekend. Did a lot of analysis yesterday. This is actually starting to remind me of what happened in 2000. It's not exactly the same, but it's shades of it. Markets don't exactly repeat, but they do rhyme. Just saying the word Tesla may impact your channel. I think I did get that sorted out, and without the Tesla videos specific, it's gotten a lot better. Let me tell you. Hey, Ken, hope you are well this weekend. So just tell me what you want me to call you by, and I will do that. Again, we have so many of the regulars here spending time on their Sunday afternoon. I will explain. Well, we've had this big run up. I will explain what I'm seeing and thinking. We've had this big run up. Let me do some things. Let's walk through some analysis together. Let's walk through, because I know the probabilities associated with stuff. So we got above that 62.5, and we got straight to that 75, right to that harmonic and the 200. Now, this does favor higher price action, and I'm thinking we run, not necessarily the first part of this week. Even if we pop tomorrow, I am looking for a pullback. We are in overbought conditions, so we could get a 2 to 3 day pullback, which we will look at those levels. But this now technically stays in bullish mode until we would break below or get a close below about 42.54. Now, so unless you see a major pullback, this does stay in short-term bullish mode. And I'll show you also what I'm looking at. Now, longer term, where's the next key level to close above? The next major one for a continued rally. Again, in the macro sense, does it make sense? No. But you got to trade the price action. I mean, we got to oversold, and we were talking about the bounce, but this was a huge rip your face off bounce. We start getting above this 45, 43 area on a closing basis, then we could really be targeting, back at key levels at the beginning of the year. Is it possible? Completely possible after the pullback. Now, let me show you something. Let's go back. Let's take the way back machine. Way back. Way back. Not that way back. You see here, 2000, and the pattern's not the same, but you see how much this did retrace? Initial killer sell-off. And then look at the S&P. Inched its way back. Now I'll show you something. Inched its way back. Inched its way back. It couldn't get a close above the 87.5. Remember, when you start getting close above that 62, you see it couldn't get a close, finally close above there. Next major area is at 87.5. and then it couldn't get a close above there on the weekly basis and rolled over. So we have that. Now, if we take a look at the NASDAQ, I'm going to jump around a bit, so bear with me. NASDAQ, which, you know, this is the bigger term picture. It's still a ways away from its 62.5. So it could still rally. But if we go back in the Wayback Machine on the NASDAQ, close. We had the big sell-off, and then running back up, could not get the close above the 62.5 and rolled over again. So that, now remember, we have room to run up to that 62.5 without closing above it on the NASDAQ, and then a longer term rollover. And this can take weeks. We could be in slight bullish mode at least until mid-April, at least. Or if not longer. So, and then that rolled over. So what am I saying here? That if this does continue after we get a slight pullback, I will, come on, be what? Let me jump ahead. And it just undid what I didn't want it to undo. Hold on. Oh no, there we go. Oh, so frustrating sometimes. I got to talk to them about that. So what I'm saying is, you know, we got some strong signals. Also on the longer term system, S&P went bearish last week, and this is a very, very rare whipsaw. It can happen, but it's very rare. And when this happens, it's generally higher prices. So, and it would take a lot at this point to re-trigger another short on that. So I saw whipsaw. Now NASDAQ, sorry, I'm jumping around so much. NASDAQ is still in sell mode. So we'll keep an eye on that. And Dow also with the whipsaw move. So we've got a couple of rare whipsaw moves. So I'm really focused on potentially higher price action again after the pullback, as long as we don't get below on a closing basis 42.56. Other than that, we just have to look, what does a short-term pullback mean? Well, the key first area of support is now back at about 43.90, and you can see here, if we do start pulling back tomorrow, or overnight, I'm watching the 4-hour rotation zone. If you look at the daily, we could be getting the first cross. Even with a pullback, we could get the first cross, which shifts us back to bullish mode on the short term in the daily. And in the weekly, we're up against the top of the rotation zone. So if it does pull back and then we get a close back above last week's highs, it's back to neutral on the weekly, with the daily being short-term bullish. Major support coming in right about 43.28 to about 43.40. So that's my first major level if we get a multi-day pullback, to see if that holds. And then remember, it's between the 50 and 62. If we start getting closed below the rotation zone, I'm then focused on the 50 to 62. We don't have even a topping pattern here. There's nothing. Look how strong it, I mean, unless you're like on a 5-minute, yeah, you literally have, the only kind of topping pattern is a potential divergence on a 5-minute chart, which, all right, I mean, when the market opens, if it has any pullback, that's done with. So there's no other topping pattern. Look, there's no other divergences. Everything's just pinned. That's how much. So overnight tonight, I will be checking especially the 1-hour rotation zone, which is coming in at this 4,400. So that's the first little thing I'm watching tonight, and then tomorrow morning to see if we're above or below that. If we get below that 4,400, also, you see that's with the 4-hour rotation zone. So then I start watching for the 43.63, and hopefully I'll be able to fine tune some price action. There's just no way to even project harmonics. So we have to use the retracement harmonics and just key price action. So that's what I'm watching for in the short term. Now, if it just continues tonight or into tomorrow, 4,500, 4,507 is the next harmonic. And yes, we are very overbought on pretty much every time frame. But it can still keep going. So that's where we sit. By the way, this was not a double bottom because of this hitch in here. It's technically a triple bottom, and it wasn't even a double bottom on the weekly. So we could not use those targets. That, again, doesn't mean it can't rally because, again, triple bottoms only slightly favor a continuation move. And you see, we were prepared for this rally. This, though, the extent of it did surprise me. NASDAQ. NASDAQ, again, short, everything's pinned. Here's even your 5 minutes. I mean, look, you're at roughly the highs. Here's your 15-minute. Here's your 1 hour. Just absurd. But it was easy trading to the long side. Pullbacks, what I'm watching for here is I'm watching 14,264. 14,264 is my first area within the 1 hour rotation zone. We break below that. Minor would be, I'm not even going to put it on the chart, 14,121. Major is more down around 14,000 again. And 14,000, 13,996, 14,000, that would be into the 4 hour rotation zone and this key little support ledge right in here. So resistance becoming support right in there. Now, on the daily, we might be also, if it does continue to push higher, this isn't as close to getting in bullish mode yet, especially with the pullback. Those could easily separate. But your key support area is about 13.9, even on a multi-day pullback. Where don't you want to, well, if you're in bearish mode, you want to see closing back below about 13,500. That would then shift it back to bearish mode, and we would stop watching for higher prices at this point. Now, continued rally. We have this resistance shelf right here and a harmonic coming in about 14,600 to 14,630. And then above there, we got 14,817 to about 14,872. If we come off the recent decline, the 62.5 was right here. Right in here that closed above. So the 75 is the next area. I'm really focused on this. I'm just putting it up there for the sake of unity. And then, but you know, you get through this cluster area. The next target is at 87.5 from the statistical retest of this high area. So that is about 14,970. So those are some upside targets. Again, I am watching for a short-term pullback and then a rotation back up unless we get some kind of huge reversal move and we get back below that 62.5 on all these markets. Other than that, now when I say up move, I doubt it will be as strong as these what 1% days 4 in a row, but we could still go choppy upwards after the pullback. So Dow, your key area on that to watch is about 33,400. Again, now that's in short-term bullish mode with this move. Cleared this key resistance, still in a clear path move. End of the clear path target is about 34,900, right where this 200 is. So I could easily see the Dow pushing up even tomorrow, possibly before the pullback. Then above there, what's interesting is you have another little clear path move with a target of 35,640. Let's take a look at here too. Let me take this off briefly. So from this decline, you see also the Dow closing above the 62.5 level. And the next major area, once it does clear to 200, now this just isn't for tomorrow or Tuesday. This is all right. We could get a pullback and then rerun up, but 35,300 is the next key area. And I'll get to some questions in a second. Oops. I'll get to some questions in a second. Pullback levels, again, Dow even, you know, again, closing right at you. The only thing you have is divergence, but there's no strong topping pattern. It will have to occur either the Asian or European before we even get a topping pattern. The Dow, I am watching anywhere from around 33,390 to about 34,440, and then below that, If we do get below that, my next little support is about 34,162 to about 34,189. And the key, again, the key line in the sand is 33,370. But well before you get to that, you do have the first cross rotation zone there. And on the weekly, it's closed right at its weekly. So the weekly is pretty much back in neutral mode. So again, stuff has shifted from extremely bearish to slightly bullish to neutral mode. So that's why it's reminding me so much of that patterns back in the, when we're starting to get that tip over move in the .com bust, but everybody thought everything was clear, everything was back to normal. And so we're going to have to see what's going on with that. Ted, I'm good to see the old music. Yeah, it's good to have some videos like that. We'll take a look at some next. Back's pain for SPY next week is 436. So that's a slight pullback here, but remember we had that SPY, and that was a valid double bottom, and it's hit all its targets. So 436. Could we get the pullback even through Friday? Yeah. We could even rally the first couple days and then roll back over, get that pullback, and then continue higher. Again, I am expecting a pullback. We just don't have any signal for it yet. And just because something overbought, thanks for putting that out for. So for the people tracking the SPY, it's 436. By the way, I did not get to. Still, we have zero gamma at 43.87. This hasn't updated yet, so I'll have to take a look tomorrow morning. Let's go through the economic calendar also, because there's some key stuff going on. We have Fed speak. This big stuff at the beginning of the week is we got the Bostic speaking, Powell speaking tomorrow. Then we have Williams speaking, Daly speaking, Mester speaking on Tuesday. Wednesday, we got Powell again and new home sales month over month, and then all your gas and oil stuff. And then Daly speaking. So look at all this. I mean, you're going to get some interesting price action moves based off of what they say. Thursday, durable goods. That's going to be very, very interesting. Continuing jobless claims, but the big thing is durable goods. And then PMI and Waller speaking, and Evans is speaking, and Boss is speaking. So, and they could adjust some what they're saying based off of either especially if the market is strong. And Friday, consumer sentiment, which is going to be a big one. And then you have Williams, and you have pending home sales, and then you have Barker and Weller. So, I mean, I think these guys just like to hear themselves talk. Fed watch, by the way, is still just one rate hike favorite in May versus 2, but 2's running about 31%. So just wanted to review that too. Let's see, Russell's about to get out of this congestion zone, and then it would be running into a clear path move with the full target, and it looks like it's in short-term bullish mode again, so we could easily see 2136 after a pullback, of course, if we do get that. DAX came down with this little double hitting the first target and then turning into a triple. So I'm going to be watching DAX potentially again to the upside. It does have this little bigger key area and a gap, so I will be keying off of if it does break down about 14,110 area, 14,117. Crude is interesting. We do have a potential double top. Now, crude and some of the oil stocks, I started looking at that more this weekend. Even on a bounce in crude, I am looking for a potential another rollover in crude. All right. So we could still have a little more upside. We didn't fully complete this double bottom pattern yet, but if you do break down, first warning signs, if we do get down below 196, then I'll start watching for a short-term pullback. But again, crude is starting to look toppier. Again, and then I'd watch for that bigger pullback into, especially back down towards around 88. So back into the channel, back towards the bottom of the rotation zone and the 62.5 level from this run up. So do keep that in mind with crude plays or oil stocks or anything you're in, like XOM. Again, it's got this shorter term little double, which has triggered but not yet hit any targets. So even if this does run up, what's sort of interesting with this is if it does run up, we talked about this, if it does run up and then rolls back down, we have a potential head and shoulders top. Now, I can't do the estimates because we don't know where the neckline will break, so I've just roughly estimated, but the first target would be back to 69.30. So we could see even back into, and the second target could take us back to the 50-week and this prior major resistance becoming support level. So that's why I'm keeping an eye on these for much bigger pullbacks and then a potential resumption of trend, especially with this big toppy area coming in. So again, my recommendation is to keep tighter stops on anything oil related at this point. And then if it does start to break down, wait for that bigger pullback for a reentry signal. Gold, little bounce. Now I am also watching for a potential breakdown move again in a retest of this 1903. Long term, though, it's just very, very bullish. And these pullbacks are essentially gifts in my book. And this the head and shoulders pattern is still completely in play for a pullback to 1876 should we get back below 1900. Silver, head and shoulders still in play, so I'm watching for a pullback to about 2470 to 2474. Notes are sitting here in an inside day for Friday. So on any rally, resistance is 125.04. And if it starts rolling over, I'm watching Thursday's lows. If we get below Thursday's lows, now I can update these levels finally, because we did get the pausing area. So if we break below Thursday's lows, I'm watching for a retest. And then, but we got a fair amount of support between lows on Wednesday, which came in at 123.25.5 and to 123.20. Dollar index double top still in play. So nothing has changed with that. So let's see what else. All right. So Davey wants to be called Davey. Good to know. FSR is ready to fly. Could be interesting. It's got a triple bottom. You get a close above about 13 bucks, it could get interesting then. Then it could get interesting, because then you're into a clear path move. And you could easily target the 200. Only real stopping point is about 1385. So that could be an interesting play for me, only above 13 bucks. Let's see. Given our goal is only price, but what's the narrative for the recent move in the SPX when liquidity is getting tighter? Market anticipating good earnings. I think earnings. Well, they've been talking down earnings already. I just think that. I mean, you had lots of in the mass shorted stocks. They were up 17%. In the most shorted stock index, up 17% over 4 days. That is a huge move. So that was targeted first. And then you just had which we had the oversold bounce, but now we're getting into, I mean, again, everybody I'm talking to, well, not every, a lot of people I'm talking to, lows are in for the year. We're going to rally the rest of the year. That was the pullback. The worst is over, and it's party like it's 1999. So that's just general consensus. And I think the max pain, and now you got max pain is still to the upside for some people, but it's interesting. It's back piling into. I mean, also I went over this, I think on Friday, WeWork, which is complete crap. Up big, but you know what? They're still even with this little squeeze, there's 7 days. You want a short little play to keep an eye on. I mentioned this. If this does pop again, you have short interest is 7 days to cover. 7 days to cover is massive. So, I mean, you could still see in these most shorted stocks more pain to the upside. So that's what it's about right now. It's just about where it is, and things could still rally from a technical perspective at this point, and then roll over again. So that's where weekly is more interesting. What on FSR? Again, that doesn't change my perspective. That's not a double for me. That's a triple. So again, my only play is still what I said. I would not ignore this first area against a weekly. But then you do have some room to run to that 200. That really doesn't change anything I'd be looking at. What levels to watch for Amazon? Welcome, Abraham. What levels to watch for Amazon? Again, my key, it will get interesting. This is a weekly pattern. That's your weekly double, and that could return technically. It's because it cuts through that wick, but it's still, even with this, it still technically works. This, even with these extra rotations in there, and this comes in on the daily. So my key levels are 32.76. Then I would not ignore the 33.33 area with the flat 200 and this prior. You see this breakdown area? Breakdown, flat 200. So on any bullish plays, I'm watching for this double to trigger, and then 33.40 area. Above 33.40, minor would be 34.50 area, and then 35.61. Support. For support on a pullback, if you're watching for a pullback, I'd be targeting about 3,100 to 30.78. And if it did get a bigger pullback from there, about 3,000. But anywhere in here, I'd be watching for another potential buy trigger. Again, very, very overbought. So I'd be watching for a slight pullback before another run to this peak area. Hey, Raj. Hope you are having a great weekend. Thanks for stopping by. Just a few, huh, Raj? I had some stocks to look at. SM, Apple, Microsoft, NTR, CF, FB. Just a few. I was actually going to look at X because of steel. There could be some interesting steel plays coming in. Let's go through your list. And then we will wrap it up. SM, Energy. Again, I don't know if you saw my... Raj, I don't know if you just popped in. I don't know if you saw my little comments on oil. I'm watching for another potential rollover with oil. So keep that in mind. Oh boy, this is SM. Not crazy about this chart. Just looking here. Boy, this is interesting. For the bullish case, you know, you start getting back above 40, it's bull mode, but this is looking like it's going to be possibly congestion with a bigger pullback again. I literally don't have anything on this. I'd be watching again. If it starts breaking below 37.65, I would watch for the bigger pullback and then a possible reentry. Let's see, Apple. Apple against the 50. Let me clean up this chart a little. Again, any pullback play, I'd be focusing on you. About 150. Let me see here. This stuff's in, yeah, about 160 on a pullback. 160 would be the area I'd be watching on any pullbacks. Or above there, it's just really choppy in here. Some of these charts are still ugly. We do have upside again if it does pull back a little. Not a double. I mean, Apple, everything I'm looking at now is just based off what would shift it back to short-term bearish mode. Again, Apple wouldn't shift back to short-term bearish mode till about 155.40 area. So to the upside, you still have a little clear path move. You still have a little gap left behind. So that's my next play I'd be watching on the upside would be that gap fill, 166.23. Then above there would be this longer term trend line. And no, see, yuck. There's just this is a lot of stopping points. But I'd have to target to the upside about 170 to 171. Microsoft. Now Microsoft gets more interesting, especially it's back to its 200. So I'm going to watch if it does pop above its 200 and doesn't hold it as support. Key support then coming in about 292. But this is definitely softening it. I'm really interested above 303. We go into this little move up here, and you still have a gap play up here to 311. So that's where above 303, this one's a lot easier. 303, I target 311. So that's the little play to the upside there. I just want to see above 303. Yep, and 311. Gap fill and harmonic. So that's the little upside play in Microsoft once it can get a close above at least the 200, but I'd like to see intraday price action break above 303 and then retest it, or get a daily close above 303 would be a trigger with a little run up to that 311. Now on a pullback, again, your major area is this 292 area with the first cross of rotation zone. NTR. NTR again topping out here. Let me get some of this off. This is another very, very toppy pattern. In still agriculture, we've got beans, you got wheat, and you got corn pulling back. I did the sector analysis. I think there's a little more pullback in the agriculture sector. So that's what I am watching for. And this, I mean, it is digesting its stuff. It's trying to get the rotation back up. You know, and it looks like it could make another run for the highs. And this is a good place to use these little harmonics right here. But I'm watching for a top. It's already had one divergence coming in here. If it doesn't even make a push higher up here again, we'd have another divergence play, and I'm watching for the bigger pullback in stuff like this. It's way off its weekly. So either I'm not very bullish on this, at least for the time being. And now it could continue to move sideways and work off this overbought condition and then reestablish a bullish trend as the weekly rotation zone catches up. Or more likely, it's going to start breaking down. You start getting below the low from the 16th, and I'm going to start focusing on a bigger pullback in that. But then that would be another rebuy entry at a lower trade. I mean, a lower price. CF, another agriculture. You still technically have this double top in play. This rotation up has not invalidated it yet. Now, if it could make another run for that high. So that's what but then again, you're going to, even if it ekes out a new high, a potential divergence. Key would be, again, from the low of the 16th. If we roll over there, I'd be watching for that pullback to about 76. What else? Oops. Meta. Meta completed that double bottom pattern above its 200 now. Meta, I think, on a pullback has some more room to run also. We could see easily 234 on Meta after a slight pause or a pullback. Again, very overbought. So your key support, I'm watching for a possible pullback to about 210 to about 206 is my first target area for a pullback, and then a rotation up, and that could be a little entry. Again, you have this support ledge here. It could even dip into it a bit, but then make another run. You have a sloppy advanced clear path right here. And again, your weekly you have your weekly rotation zone, but I'd be focused more on the weekly 200 at 234. Then if it can get above there, you could see 250 on a continued run higher. That's what's interesting. Some of these stocks, they have room to the upside should this continue. And I know a lot of people are still not buying it, and we will have to see, but there is room for stuff to run a little longer. X, U.S. Steel. We're getting some divergence up here. I'm really watching, and again, a triple divergence here. You see here, 3 pushes higher, 3 lower RSIs. Triple divergences are pretty big pullback patterns for me. And so I'm watching for a play back here. Oh, come on. I'm watching for a play back to about the 29 level as a possible re-entry play for this. That could be very interesting back at the 29 level and even slightly below that from a longer term perspective. You got the rising rotation zone. You have this long-term base come in that is broken above. So this is now major support. So it's not a play up here for me personally, but it's a play down here on a re-entry signal in X. I really like that. Longer term. And I'm just looking at the weekly targets on this. Easily, that could give really good reward to risk too. Once you get that pullback play, because you can keep a tighter stop, and then you 36.90, then 39s, and that's not even taking it back anywhere close to highs in 18. So that's definitely one that I like a lot. RS. Again, we got some divergences coming in now. This is interesting. You'd have to really get a solid break above these two tops, this 194.65. Is technically still a double top. This price action has not invalidated it yet. Now, does that mean it has to go? I mean, what this would mean if you're already long it, I would just trail a stop. I'd even trail it below 182 before that even triggers. But if this triggers, I'd be watching for the bigger pullback in that. Now, if it rotates back up and really breaks through, then we can watch. And what's interesting is there's so much news. I mean, this is in the aluminum genre too, and you know, it looks Australia's cutting off Russia from aluminum, so it does get interesting. But for some reason, there is some bearish topping patterns in a lot of these things. But if it does break above 195, you have, let's just take a look at that weekly. See, it's at all-time high, major overbought on the weekly. I would not be surprised to see these things pull back, honestly. But above 195, 201, and then 207. You got a lot of topping patterns in a lot of these things. RYI. Didn't update this in Ryerson Holdings. Again, waning momentum on this. Next push up 37.56. I'm just seeing if there's any. I'm seeing how very overextended. So short term, your support's coming in right around this 33 level, but you break below 33 and I'd be watching for the bigger pullback. Now again, this would be another bullish play. We're getting divergences up here. We're getting waning momentum. So I'd just be watching for pullbacks. I would not be chasing any of these now. I'd be running a stop fairly close if you're already long, and then watching for the bigger pullback. Another one. SBNY, the bank play for me is about 320. 320, you got a gap fill, and then I'd be watching after the gap fill, then 337, then about 350. As long as this remains above 291, now that did the analysis in the sector and the banks, the financials got again strong. I don't know if Signature Bank has what their exposure is, but they're a regional bank, so I don't have a problem with a potential upside play with this as long as it remains above 291. If it breaks back below 291, you could see a little backfill with this gap fill, but then you could keep a real tight stop, and then for a potential play, it's already softened up this 50 and it's got a gap left to the upside. But a close below that 290 level would take that off the table for me. Let's see. Motor trade, welcome, welcome, welcome. I disagree with the consensus. This is Mr. Market behaving like a drunk with a lampshade on his head about to go off the high board. It is the market doing that, but we have to trade it, don't we? I also think consumer earning companies like Pepsi, Costco, and BJ could also be interesting. And yes, and that was the consumer staples and everything got really strong again. Pepsi, which did complete my double bottom pattern and then rallied very strong. I am watching for a pullback in this for another push higher in Pepsi. You can see that major thing. And my resistance level, I'm bumping that down. But again, 165 to about 166 for my upside after a pullback. Again, back above the 200. So 160 is my key support level. But that completed the double play in Pepsi. Costco's definitely something I'm watching again on a pullback play. Costco back to about 542 to about 545 on a short-term pullback. Acting strong, but I still have my targets to the upside. I wanted to just we have 588 then 605. Where would I get cautious again? If we got back below on a closing basis, back below about 524, then I'd go in super cautious mode with Costco. But that could be an interesting, especially a play. Now BJ's see, this is where I don't like the play as much because we got choppier price action, so there's a lot of stopping points. But you've got now these three tops, so above 66, it could make a run. Definitely it could make an upside run. There's just, I mean, I'd have to move up a stop at about 67.83. Then about 69.35 with this topping area. So there's definitely a play here to the upside. What would make me take it off my radar screen completely is below 62.50. A close below 62.50, I'd then be watching back for a pullback to the 200. But as long as we don't do that, get above that 66 area, 66.30, raise stop, take something off the table and leave something on for a retest of this high area. That's the way I'd play that. Yes, we have to do Tesla. Thank you for reminding me. Tesla. Now key support that I'm watching again. If the market continues higher, Tesla continues higher. especially if they keep rotating back into these high momentum plays. 860 is key first support that I'm watching on a bigger pullback. 860 and then 850. Those are my two key support levels. You see coming up here, we smack dab to the, I was surprised this hit it on Friday, but we hit that harmonic. Above that for Monday, 913, and then still my major area is 937 to about 942. I just want to see where these, even though we didn't have much of a pause here. Yeah, here would be intermediate above 943, 926, and then anywhere from about 937 to 945 is a major topping area I'd have to fine tune. And I'm in short-term bull mode, even on a pullback, as long as it remains above 850. It's technically back to bearish mode, but the super long-term top pattern is still in place. So could this run more? Yeah, easily could run more. If after a pause or a pullback, but a close back below the daily 200 would shift the tone back to more of a neutral mode. Max pain for Tesla's 825. If it got all the way back to 825, wow, that would be very interesting because that would kill a lot of the bull case. 825 would be, because let's see where the retracement is on this run up. I guess it could theoretically, but that would really dampen the bull case if it got back to 825, and the key level right now is about 813. But it could pull back. I guess theoretically it could pull back between that 50 and 62.5 and rotate back up, but that would crush a lot of the short-term bull case. If it can't stay above this support, this resistance becoming a support, even in this zone, we have a little zone, and it can't stay above the 200, that really weakens this bull run. Why? Because then it shifts it back into a bearish mode or consolidation bearish with long-term bearish still trigger in place. All right, what else? I did not check in on IBM yet. IBM, interesting here. Clear path move, breaking above resistance, getting first cross rotation zone, so could run to that 200. See where that, I bet you that's right at a harmonic too. Yep. 130.73. Continued bullish play, 130.73. Your support levels coming in right around 127.50, 127.40. You don't want to see it break below Friday's low, 126.50. So that could be a little continuation play if it does have some strength to the upside. And then, but that 200 is going to be area to, at least if you're playing this to the bullish side, to raise a stop. What else do we have? Financial commentators more positive for Chinese stocks lately, but they may change on a dime, especially with current geopolitical situation. I completely agree with you. Raj, historically Apple and Microsoft tend to run up before earnings. Yep, that is a true statement. PayPal has a lot to run too. Yep. PayPal triggered this double, thanks for reminding me, triggered this double bottom. So even on a pullback, now this is finally, we got a divergence down here. And now it's running into a double pattern. So even on a pullback at PayPal, it's still a great play with this rising rotation. So we could see an interesting run up still to about 128.45 at a minimum and right where that 50. So this could easily return to this 50 EMA on the daily. Again, I'm just seeing we got a lot of bullish chart plays. You are welcome, Davey. fundamentally, for the past 10 years, the commodities industry has been underinvested, been consolidating like oil and gas sector. In my opinion, this sets a sector for a push higher. I agree. We will get a longer term push higher again. I'm watching for a shorter term pullback to get into positions, and then still a longer term run higher. I'm just keeping an eye because I think there's just too many patterns that are showing potential bearish triggers. So that's why I say raise stops, because they haven't triggered yet, but we could be facing one more rollover and push down oil, which I think will catch a lot of people off guard. Mike, can you have a look at ZIM? Zim. I think this is going to pull back more, even if it rotates back up. Again, a lot of these things they're going to still be bullish long term, but even on a rotation back up, I'd be watching for a topping pattern and then a rollover play. This is just overextended to me, and I could easily see it returning to between 77 and about 74. So would not be chasing this at this point. If you're already long, I would keep a fairly tight stop on this, because I'd be looking to re-enter a long position on a pullback. Now, if you're in it for the dividend play, which is, that's a hefty dividend, you're going to have to stay in it, and you will get that move with the dividend payout. But so if you're in it for the dividend play and you owned it ex dividend day or before ex dividend day, and you're going to collect the dividend, then yeah, you gotta. I wouldn't be selling it right in front of that dividend, but you could see a bigger pullback. Getting massacred on my Nova options. Cost average all the way down. Nice 1 or 2 pump to 24. Been dumping without a meaningful bounce. When should I pull ripcord? Thanks. Again, I looked at NOV earlier. I'm watching for, again, now another rollover move in oil. And this is the challenge with options when you're sitting there. If you don't really get a pop above this 1980 level, if we can't get the rotation up in oil, I reviewed oil earlier. I'm watching for another rollover play down. So we start breaking below 1850. I'd pull, personally can't give you individual trading advice, but I'd pull the ripcord, because I'd be looking to reestablish something lower. Again, if you missed the beginning, I already talked about oil. So oil, we still, even to the upside, have only a minor push higher. It have to get some serious move on, but we're starting to get some bearish potential patterns and a rollover play in oil to the downside. That's why I'm cautious on anything with oil. And I also looked at things like Exxon potentially making a head and shoulders top. Now, they haven't triggered yet. They haven't done anything, but I'm keeping a very close eye on this. And then also you're getting volatility premium sucked out. So it's a double whammy with that. NVIDIA. NVIDIA gets interesting, really interesting to me. We had this little short-term bounce play, and then NVIDIA above 268 gets interesting to me for another breakout play. I'm watching for a pullback right now. Up here, I got some pretty key resistance, about 268 to 270. Key areas I'm watching, if you get the bigger pullback, I don't want to see it break below 245 on a closing basis, but I am watching for a pullback closer to that level. So that's key to me. Now, if it bases up here, it bases sideways, and then we get the break above right around, if you want a conservative break around 269.50, then it's a really nice continuation play to the upside. 277 and 285. 277 would be stop raise. 285 would be to take something potentially off the table. From my perspective, shifting into bullish mode again. And as long as you remain still above 245, gets it iffy, but you break below 237 on a closing basis, there's no more bullish play in me. So, and entering overbought, that's why I'm watching for either a pause and a drift sideways or a slight pullback. Yeah, shipping container costs quadruple. I saw that. I didn't look at the PE ratio. I'll take a look at that. They're profitable. Again, just from a technical standpoint, they could be getting into shipping containers. I think there's going to be long-term pressure on shipping and costs skyrocket. Short-term, though, we could see a pullback. Lots of things are extended, and that's what people are least expecting. And that's what the charts are saying, too. Can it continue higher? Yeah, but I wouldn't be starting a new position. Like on stuff at Zim, this would not be the place I'd be starting a new position. I'd be starting a position on a pullback. Because we could get, I mean, this could continue a pullback even through the dividend and then establish a new position. Let's see. I have basic earnings per share at about 40. Price to earnings is 224. Yeah. So could this, yeah, this has definitely room to the upside. That's why it's a pullback play. Which actually I'm going to set a couple alerts. Okay, so there. That's actually very interesting. So remind me in the next couple days if we want to check in on this one. All right. There we go. So, thank you, everyone. Thank you for spending some time on a Sunday with me. I hope we're all better prepared. Going to continue some more analysis for the next little bit. Then enjoy the rest of my Sunday evening. Watch where the futures open and watch some of the Asian session to see how it is reacting. With that, I will do we can do some more market previews. We'll do one tomorrow at 8 a.m. if everybody would like that. And we'll start seeing, based off the Asian and European price action, if we can help fine-tune our levels for tomorrow. You are very welcome, Eric. Again, thank you, everybody, spending time with me on a Sunday afternoon. This was a wonderful little session. Thanks for all the people who contributed with stock ideas. And everybody new here, thank you, thank you, thank you. By the way, if you are new here, please do consider subscribing, ringing that bell, and hitting that like button. And please come back and hit that like button and leave comments if you're a longer-term subscriber and or viewer. With that, I will talk to everyone later. Bye for now.